Hello, welcome to Spotlight, beaming the joy of art over the whole of the island.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we hear about the artwork on a wonderful set of stamps just released to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Isle of Man Arts Council. Hear more from Arts Development Manager Jane Corkle at the Council about what else is happening there during this important year. And drop down to the Erin Arts Centre in Port Erin for a catch-up as we start a new artistic year and talk to the artistic director there, Pip Rolfe. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to, all together now, put in the spotlight. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, sculpture, drag, film, mime, social media, punk. Come back at me with more you can think of. There's bound to be lots more to add to the list. Just get in contact via email spotlight@manxradio.com or Howard Kane with an E, Caine @manxradio.com. Always love to feature new voices, new projects and new art around the island, whatever it might be, even off island, so long as there's some sort of island connection. Love to hear from you. Well, it's a big year for our sponsors, the Isle of Man Arts Council, with an anniversary, an important one. We heard a little bit about it last week, but Artistic Director at the Arts Council, Jane Corkle, told me more about this anniversary year and a little bit more about the history of the Arts Council itself.
It is a big year for the Arts Council. The Arts Council is 60 years old in 2025. So I think it's round about March in 1965 was when the very first meeting of Arts Council members took place, following a resolution of Tynwald to set up an Arts Council on the Isle of Man.
And the intention originally was the same as now, to actually sort of sponsor arts and maybe some arts which otherwise might not be seen?
Originally, when it was set up, it was more set up to promote arts on the Isle of Man and support arts on the Isle of Man. And it was given a Tynwald vote of funding. But the actual mechanism we have now, where people apply to us for funding awards, that sort of developed through the 70s into the 80s and obviously continues with us today.
And has it changed much over the years, do you think, the way it actually operates, or perhaps the way it's funded and such like?
It's changed. Well, in some ways it hasn't changed. The membership of the Arts Council has always been voluntary. The members aren't paid. The members of the Arts Council come from the creative community in the Isle of Man. We've been looking back over the minutes of the last 60 years and we have been really fortunate that so many talented people on the island have given up their time willingly to sit on the council and support and help and develop creativity on the Isle of Man. So that still exists. The members are volunteers and they are drawn from different areas of the arts on the island. Funding wise, the funding now comes from the lottery tax, which is given to the Arts Council via government treasury. So it's slightly the same but different. And just looking through the minutes, you can see this year alone, since last March, we've had 143 applications for funding to date, which I think is probably the biggest ever. So the demand is there. The Isle of Man is a very, very creative place, and the Arts Council have, in that 60 years, been a part of a lot of what goes on here in some way. Either it's been developed by the Arts Council themselves, or funding has been given to enable.
And I think you mentioned right back at the beginning, did you mention Sir John Betjeman?
Yes, so in 1965, the first membership of the council, the members were appointed by the Lieutenant Governor at the time, and Sir John Betjeman was an actual original member of the Isle of Man Arts Council. I can't see from the minutes that he ever particularly came to any meetings, but I think he did offer advice at the time about setting up the council and how it should work and what it should be looking at to develop. I think at the minute the only living founder member of the Arts Council is Brian Neal, who was an original member in 1965 alongside his brother Nigel.
And back in those days, there was no limit for your term on the council.
No, there wasn't. At the moment, the Arts Council members have a fixed term of 4 years, which they serve, and then they can go back onto the council maybe for 2 more years. But back then, when it was formed, there was no limit. That sort of came in around the 90s.
Looking forward to this year, then, the 60th anniversary year, are there going to be any sort of events or special events planned to celebrate the anniversary?
Well, yes, we've got a few things on the go, let's say. First up, the Arts Council is really privileged and excited to have a set of stamps, which will be the general issue this year. So when you go and buy stamps to put on your letters, that will be our Arts Council stamps. Even though I say so myself, they're really, really fabulous. They're very vibrant, very colourful. They give a snapshot of the Isle of Man's creative life in the here and now. So we're very excited about that. We are having a small event to which we've invited all former council members and other people that have been involved in some way to launch those stamps, and also just to get as many former council members together as we can, because obviously we've got 60 years worth, so it's quite a lot of people that we've been that we've invited to that.
Now, Jane mentioned the fact there that as part of the 60th celebrations, a set of 10 postage stamps have been released for general usage through the 60th anniversary year 2025. Each stamp reflecting a different aspect of the Arts Council's involvement in the vast canvas, which is the Isle of Man's creative life. Well, I thought it would be good to hear more about the design and the artwork and development of this set of stamps. As Jane says, with so much to choose from, where on earth do you start on such a project? To find out more, Arts Project Officer Susie Walker and Arts Engagement Officer Jade Boylan stopped by the Spotlight studio, and I began by asking Susie about her involvement in the production of the stamps.
I was incredibly involved right from the beginning. I'm on a 2-year contract, so this has been one of my main jobs up to now. So when I came into my role, I had to source all the images, a huge amount of images that would encapsulate the breadth of what the Arts Council do. And when you start collating things, you realise that actually the Arts Council is all over the Isle of Man, all in every community, doing loads and loads of really creative things with the funds that they give out. So the long list was very, very long, which we then shortened and gave a short-ish list to the post office, and then they decided on the final 10.
So did it start off, as you say, did you have a sort of committee starting up with the idea of what you wanted to go onto the stamps and then try and whittle it down, or how did the actual sort of decision of what was going to be on the stamps in the first place, how was that made?
That was a really interesting conversation, actually, because we talked about whether we would commission someone to take photographs, whether we would commission an artist to sort of capture what the Arts Council, the essence of the Arts Council. And then we all decided that actually we wanted sort of real life examples of funding out there in the community and what the public sees that the Arts Council has achieved. So we actually sourced a lot of images from the past, and no, that's not really right.
A lot of the images that are used for the final stamp collection, they're taken by the local photographers or amateur photographers. I took 2 of the photos that made it into the final 10.
Yay.
It was really exciting. I've always wanted to design some stamps, so this is the closest I've gotten so far. And I took the picture of the Gaiety Theatre and the one of the beautiful house in Ramsey with the floral mural all over it. I am not a professional photographer by any stretch, so I actually just took them on my smartphone. And I think a couple of the others on there were one of the dancers, that's a beautiful picture by Stephen Corrin. That he's a professional photographer, but he took that on his phone, didn't he? Just walking past.
Got the sunset.
And I think that's the incredible thing, isn't it? Actually, now with like you say, with modern iPhones and such, like, the cameras are so good that you can, you can take these pictures which you wouldn't know whether it was on your phone or been taken on a phone or been taken on a £10,000 camera, I think, sometimes. Amazing. So was the idea to reflect virtually all the different aspects of the work of the Arts Council over the decades?
We wondered about doing over the decades, and we went into the Manx Museum and had a really good look at their archives over all the different societies and the theatre productions that have been funded over the 60 years. And we struggled to sort of represent everything that we have done over the years with historical images. So we tried to keep it really current. And keep it into sort of sections of exactly what the Arts Council do. So we've got ones that reflect music, sculpture, public art, the education, visual art, theatre, concerts, and we've sort of had these big broad themes that have sort of come down into these individual stamps. We haven't got them all on there. We haven't got lots of different, because there's so much that the Arts Council do.
There are so many different sort of creative mediums, aren't there? So in different areas of the creative arts that we need a much bigger collection to represent them all. Because I think an early idea we talked about was using the Arts Council loan collection as a possible, because obviously the Arts Council owns a lot of beautiful pieces of art. But then we felt like that was leaving out a lot of the other arts mediums as well, because as Susie said, the council funds so many different kinds of creative projects. So this, I think it's a good mix. It shows a good mix of the kind of things that we've funded and continue to fund.
And is it difficult to, and I was talking to Joe Davies about this recently, who's worked on the Chinese New Year stamps which have just come out, but it's one thing when you're sort of thinking about, right, what's going to work, trying to decide on, what the picture is going to be, but then you've also, I assume, always got to think, is it going to work when it's shrunk down to just over an inch square?
Absolutely. And we had the Isle of Man Post Office have been fabulous to work with, and they've given us loads of guidance and have really sort of guided us to make sure that we've made the right cut with what we've been doing. They've made the final decision, because actually the stamps go to the King, so they actually go into his red box and he sees them and he approves them, which is really exciting to think that they've gone all the way to London. But yeah, to try and get these miniature pieces of art from things that are so big, such as the Silverdale horses, or how to capture a whole of a brass band in one little stamp. Really distilling that essence of it right down.
It is, yeah. And the answer to that is you zoom in on something, which is lovely. So the actual brass band, you instantly know, right, this is brass band. I'm working with the brass bands, but it's just part of either a tuba or an E-flat horn or something. You can just sort of see the valves. And again, I suppose it's thinking outside the box or outside the stamp to a degree. Have you got a favourite, either of you?
Oh, I think my favourite has to be one of the ones I took.
Of course.
I think it's of my own too. I think it's probably the Carolina mural in Ramsey, because I live near Ramsey, so I see that quite a lot anyway. And I think that was a special one for us as well, because obviously we funded that mural, but it's also the home of one of our council members, Dave Kilgallen. So that felt like an extra little kind of link there. And then I think if that wasn't my favourite, I really like the one of the Gaia in St Thomas's. I think that's really beautiful, and you can just about spot, if you zoom in, Ruby from Bisky Brisht is performing underneath Gaia.
In the gap. And what about yours? Have you got one? Or maybe you don't, I don't know.
I really adore Sophie dancing in Peel Castle, and that's actually come from a still from a film that she did while she was an intern at the Isle of Man Arts Council. So that's Peel Castle's beautiful anyway, and she really sort of brings out the beauty with her dance in that film. And Grania, you can see Grania Sheard doing her mural for Mural Fest there as well, and she actually was also worked for the Isle of Man Arts Council. So
of course.
We've got lots of links in there.
Yeah, it's not just the projects we funded, there's a lot of sort of personal links to the council there as well. So the 10 that we ended up with from the post office are actually perfect when you think about it, aren't they?
They are actually.
They are a wonderful selection. Are these available now if people want to, get a set or a first day cover or such like?
Yep, they released on the 14th of January, and they will be the general stamps that you will be popping on your letters. So post these miniature pieces of art away all over the world.
And they are little miniature pieces of art, and that's the great thing, as you say, they will be in general use throughout this 60th anniversary year. So it's sort of a constant reminder of the breadth of work, I suppose, that the council does now and has done over the decades.
Yeah, and a really lovely way to start a fabulous celebratory year for the Isle of Man Arts Council.
It is indeed a great credit to all involved. If you haven't seen the stamps yet, and you're not going to buy a special set or first day cover, well, no doubt you will see them on an envelope coming to you very soon. Probably a bill. Most of mine are.
Spotlight. brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Whilst I remember last year we enjoyed very much hearing about the accidental author Rob Cowley's latest project to inspire creative writing in young children on the island, the Manx Bedtime Stories Project as it was known. Well, we heard all about the entries and the enthusiasm of the children to get involved, and a little bit from some of the winners as well, or the winning entries. And Rob has now been in touch to let me know the prize presentation will be taking place next week, when all the winners will be there to collect their prizes. The stories have all been recorded in great high fidelity. Well, I hope so. Anyway, it was Manx Radio who recorded them, and they will be played out on the day so everyone can hear the amazing stories written by the young people. And Rob says he hopes some of the very worthy runners-up will be there as well. And of course, it's a great opportunity to be the first to buy any of the 6 books you might want at £5 a copy. Sounds like a bargain to me. Have them signed by the authors and illustrators. So Rob, and of course the stories of the children being included in the reprints and some of these new books as well. The project, of course, totally non-profit. All sales, the money goes directly into the charity pot. So what's not to like, as they say, raising money for good causes and encouraging young people to perhaps get off their devices and put pen to paper, or maybe finger to pad, as it were, but nonetheless be creative in one way or another rather than just endlessly scrolling or watching. Now, earlier this week I dropped down to the Erin Arts Centre, that wondrous hub of the arts in the south of the island, to have a catch-up, as we do throughout the year, with artistic director Pip Rolfe. And I began by asking Pip at the beginning of a new year, once the run-up to Christmas is out of the way at the centre, whether they managed to have a quiet period for a week or two.
Because of the way Christmas fell, we had quite a nice break over Christmas, but then straight back in January. So our first day back actually was Russian Heritage lecture with Paul Costain, which sold out in about 48 hours.
Really?
Yeah. And the next one, which is about Collinson House, I think actually beat that. So yeah, all the tickets went in double quick time.
And are they always popular, these lectures?
Yeah, they are. And I think Russian Heritage have very cleverly focused them to real local interest. Port Erin and sort of the surroundings. And people want to know about things like that. You know, they want to know about the local buildings, local heritage. You know, Paul's talk was about the farm and its place in Manx agriculture, and people are interested in that, you know.
And so at the start of a sort of new year, 2025 now, I mean, how far are you casting ahead? Do you have sort of things already booked through to the end of the year, or does it go on a sort of quarterly or a 6-month cycle?
Bit of both, really. You know, we get things that are regular, booked in at the same time every year. We get things that literally take with a couple of weeks' notice, and we get things that we book sort of month to month. So it's a combination of all those things.
And of course, we were chatting last year, and I know it's been an idea of yours for ages to get the licence for the bar area so that could be used as a sort of mini venue in its own right. Is that playing out well?
Yeah, definitely. There's more people using that for sort of smaller events, poetry, sort of acoustic things, and we've had a couple of talks in there as well. So no, it's working out really well.
So what have we got coming up in the immediate offing then? Here we are, sort of second week of January, thereabouts. Plenty of stuff coming forward in the next sort of 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, we've got a really busy week. We've got the first midweek movie of the year, which is The Critic, starring Ian McKellen as a fiendish film critic. Also stars Gemma Arterton and Mark Strong, so we've got a matinee and evening show. That on Wednesday. And Friday, we have the piano series, the return of the piano series. We've got a fantastic young pianist called William Bracken coming over from the Wirral to play for us, courtesy of the Keyboard Trust. Will is going to play, so basically he does a masterclass in the morning, which is free, Anybody can come down. He will chat through the programme that he's going to play in the evening and talk about the sort of themes or the history or some of the motifs of the pieces that he's going to play.
And it's a brilliant opportunity for aspiring, young pianists, or I say young, any pianists, I suppose.
Any musicians at all, just to get up close and into the minds of somebody who does this for a living, at the top of their game. And you get a lovely insight into what's going through their minds while they're playing the piece, which is it's just it's a lovely window, and it's completely don't be intimidated by the fact it's not all high piano speak. They're very accessible, and most of these sort of young musicians really enjoy talking about what they do and why they do it.
Absolutely. And I often think exactly that. You see these concert pianists and they play for an hour or 2 hours or whatever. There's never any music, of course. It's just all sort of committed to memory, and they go straight through it. You think that's incredible.
That's terrifying, I think. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they hold so much of it in their minds.
Practice, I expect.
Well, that might have something to do with it, Howard. So Will's going to play. He's going to play a Bach toccata in C minor. He's going to play a Haydn sonata. He's going to play some Brahms. He's going to play Sonata Number 9 by Scriabin. He's going to play Beethoven Bagatelle and a Beethoven sonata. So nice, really nice program as well.
Lovely mix. And there's some jazz in the offing?
So the very next day, we have Dave Newton and Alan Barnes coming back to play a gig that I think was scheduled for last April, and then the weather intervened, and then they had full diaries, and this was the first date that we could manage. But it's kind of handy because they have just released a fantastic new album, 'Tis Autumn. I think they released it in the autumn, actually, so it's been out a few months. So they'll be playing the hits from that. And, they're always just fabulous, Al and Dave playing together. If you don't know them, Alan Barnes plays saxophone of various types, and Dave is a very, very fine jazz pianist. They've been playing together probably on and off for about 40 years.
Oh, it's a long time. And again, you're right, it's that thing, if you haven't seen them before, it's almost telepathic, the sort of communication between the two of them.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that's that kind of communication you only get with time, and the understanding of exactly how your counterpart works. And they're very funny as well. Al's a great raconteur.
He is brilliant.
So if you're a jazz fan and if you've seen them before, you'll want to come. But if you haven't, it's a real chance to catch two of the best, I think.
And just give us the date for that again.
Saturday the 18th.
If you've seen them before, as Pip says, you know what to expect with Alan and Dave, and if not, then you're in for a treat because the music is fantastic, and as you say, the stories and the quips from Alan, you could almost make it. I always think it's a stand-up comic if he's decided to give up music.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely a second career available there.
We just had a quick walk through the gallery. Of course, there's the gallery on the right-hand side, but people can come in pretty much any time during the week and see what the exhibition there is.
Yeah, absolutely. We're open Tuesday till Friday, 10 to 4:30. There will be a couple of Saturday openings as well for this show because it's a group show by Manx Artful Dodgers, who are a community group headed up by Anna Klukas. So there's work of all sorts. It's all painting, but there's some work of all styles and descriptions. It's a really lovely exhibition. So keep an eye out for the Saturday openings, or else come and see 10 to 4:30 through the week.
Sounds good to me. And I just had a very quick scoot down, and you say a great spread of different styles and themes in the exhibition there now. And just finally, I know there's sort of various groups that sort of use the centre as well. Is that still blossoming? I'm always thinking of the Knotty Knitters, or I can't remember their name. The Port Erin Pearlers. No,
Port Pearlers. Yeah, the Port Pearlers still come in. We have the book circle group that meet here as well. We have various groups that come in and do yoga every now and then, and which we're really trying to develop. Cultivate that daytime thing.
and that's the sort of essence, and I think in many ways, of a proper sort of art centre, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. There should be people using it all the time for as many art practices as possible. Really, it's a lovely place to rehearse. It's a lovely place to record. Like I say, we've got the bar as a secondary venue, and we're just trying to develop that to get more and more things going on.
Wonderful to have the piano cycle again, and opera coming up. I mean, not full opera, not quite big enough for that, sadly, but we do have the wonderful streaming. We've
got the Live from the New York Met. Again, please don't ask me the date for this. I know it's February.
And it's Aida.
It is. The next one's Aida. Yeah. So again, if you're an opera fan and you haven't been to one of these, they show the full program. But in the intervals, you get to go backstage and watch the set changes, and they do interviews with the principals during the break. Show. How? Anyway.
They earn their money, those opera stars, I tell you.
And I was a little bit cynical about that. Do you really want to go and watch people moving sets around? But it's really exciting, and you really get the feeling that you could be there. We also put on a fabulous buffet at the intervals, so you can dress up and have a night out in the opera in Port Erin.
If people want to find out more details, book, they can go online.
Yeah, look at the website, Erin Arts Centre website, and obviously Facebook, Instagram, all socials, everything's there.
That's about it for this week. If you want to hear anything again, of course, go to maxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst making some marmalade during the oh-so-short Seville orange season? I love it. See you next week, when we'll be hearing about the newly announced Biosphere Photographer in Residence role, among other things. I'll see you then, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Himu.